Donald J. Trump. In his own words, it was you and you alone who saved him. We pray for the others that were injured on Saturday, for the family who lost their loved one. Put your loving arms around them, comfort them, and may they sense your presence. We stand before you tonight. We say thank you for the provisions you have given to the United States of America. You have blessed this country more than any country in the world. Sadly, as a nation, we have forgotten who is responsible for all the freedoms, the liberties, and the bounty that we enjoy. It has all come for you. Thank you. This evening, our nation is in trouble. Politically, racially, economically, with millions of people seeking refuge and hope in our dry and thirsty land. You're the only one who can fix the complexity of the problems that we face today. We pray for President Trump, that you would give him wisdom, strength, and a clear vision for the future of this nation and the task that is at hand. Continue to protect him from his enemies. I pray that you would surround him with men and women who will give him sound counsel and guidance. We pray for Melania, for Barron, and for all the President Trump's children and grandchildren. We pray for Senator J.D. Vance, his wife Usa, along with their young family. We're thankful for his strong stand for defending life. As your word instructs, we also pray for the leaders of our nation, whether they're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. We know that all authority comes from you. You are a great God, and we ask that if it be thy will that you will make America great once again. And we ask that you'll unite our hearts, bring us together, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we pray this in the mighty name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Amen. Presence. We stand before you tonight. We say thank you for the provisions you have given to the United States of America. You have blessed this country more than any country in the world. Sadly, as a nation, we have forgotten for the future of this nation. We also...
Good evening, America. Eight years ago, my father sat our family down. He spoke of a nation in decline, of dreams slipping away, of a future endangered by failed leadership and broken promises. It was in that moment I knew my father had made a decision that would forever change our lives. We realized he had chosen to step into the arena, to fight for the soul of America. He decided to leave behind the comforts of an unbelievable business empire, to leave behind everything he had ever built, to answer the call to serve our nation. Unlike his predecessor, it was not a decision born out of necessity. Unlike the current president, it was not a decision that would enrich his family. Rather, it was a decision made out of love for this country and a deep concern for America's future. My father was clear it would not be easy, that there would be a huge price to pay, and that the attacks would be vicious. Looking back, that was an understatement. The made-up Russia hoax, the sham impeachments, the efforts to destroy an unbelievable company, a company that I run today, the efforts to cancel us, to silence him, to gag his free speech, and to drag him through every radical left courthouse in America, to take his life. Yet through it all, he's shown unwavering courage and determination, not just in public, but in every private conversation with me and our family.
That's when I smack the shit out you. I smack the shit out. That's when
He stood tall, fueled not by personal ambition, but by a profound love for this country and a love for all of you, the American people. That man is the 45th president and soon to be 47th president of the United States. That man is Donald J. Trump.
That's when I smack the shit out you. I smack the shit out. That's when
Each time I've stood on this stage, America has been at a dire crossroads. In 2016, many people began to doubt the promise of America. Our economy was struggling, jobs were scarce, our standing on the world stage was weak at best. Veterans were forgotten, our military was in shambles, our educational system was broken, ranked 30th in the world. He could no longer tolerate an inept administration that handed $150 billion to Iran, a country that chants death to America, or witness the continued attacks on our Constitution and our religious liberty, or see the disrespect shown to our unbelievable law enforcement officers who are being disarmed, defunded, and persecuted each and every day. He could no longer stand to see words like Christmas stripped from public use or the Pledge of Allegiance removed from our schools. But my father saw potential where others saw despair. Donald Trump built the New York City skyline. He did so during a time when businesses were turning away from the city he loved. Crime was rampant. The streets were dirty, but he had the Midas touch, and he turned those streets and neighborhoods into gold. He faced every challenge with tremendous vision and grit. As he did during the 2016 election, he rolled up his sleeves. He remained unapologetic. He did not care to be politically correct. He restored hope. He restored a voice to millions of Americans who had been ignored. He restored the American dream. Under my father's leadership, the economy climbed to record heights. Jobs were created at an unthinkable pace. Unemployment reached historic lows across all demographics. He cut taxes for hardworking families and businesses. He slashed regulations. We saw the greatest 401k increase in American history. People bought their first homes in an environment that saw 2 to 3% interest rates. They started their families. My father made the United States energy independent with the lowest gas prices in decades. My father made the United States safe. Our borders were closed. There was peace in the Middle East. Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the terrorists were dead. My father made the United States respected again, with the courage to walk into countries like North Korea, with the courage to impose tariffs on China, and with the courage to tear up trade deals that cost Americans their jobs. He brought manufacturing back to America. Small businesses flourished. He did what he promised. He put America first. We were winning. Donald Trump made America great again. But he also created a movement that threatened the special interests in the political elites. A movement that cast a bright light on the institutions weaponized against the American people. You see it in our schools. God bless the moms who fought back. You see it in your workplace. You see it on every news station, in every newspaper. You see it in the military. The most iconic military installations on planet Earth are stripped of their identity and renamed. Fort Hood. You see it in Hollywood. You see it in our two-tier judicial system. They don't even hide it anymore. My father has been censored. The former president ripped off Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook while terrorist organizations remain intact. My father has been persecuted, targeted by far-left Democrats funded by special interest groups and hand-picked judges. My father has been pulled off the ballots of states, radical justices attempting to defy the will of millions of Americans who adore who he is and what he stands for. My father even became the target of an assassin who almost killed America's single greatest hope for our future. The swamp is terrified of this incredible movement. They're terrified of it. They're terrified of you and the tens of millions of people watching us on TV right now. They've tried everything to keep him from you, everything, to destroy his legacy.
To members of right-wing extremist groups.
We will never give up. We will never concede.
Trump repeated the lie that the election was stolen, urging his supporters to march to the Capitol and fight.
You'll never take back our country with weakness. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Around 1 p.m., as Trump is wrapping up his remarks in the park, the day turned violent. A group of his supporters on the western side of the Capitol confront the handful of police guarding the barriers and force their way through.
Moments after Mr. Trump finished his more than hour-long speech, thousands of protesters streamed from that rally site and walked this route, down Pennsylvania Avenue, directly to the U.S. Capitol grounds.
Several people told us that day they expected Vice President Pence to overturn the 2020 election results.
What needs to happen today is Vice President Pence needs to not open the 7 state electors' envelopes for the states that I mentioned. Set them aside and send it all back to those state legislatures.
Well, we got to stop this steal from happening because if we don't, nobody's ever going to vote again. There's not going to be any integrity in our voting systems.
As the crowd grows, clashes between Trump supporters and Capitol police officers, clearly outnumbered, intensified.
We're not going to take it anymore. This is our country.
Outside, the Capitol's west front became a battleground. Inside, the joint session of Congress to certify election results was underway. The traditionally ceremonial process is upended by Republicans, led by Representative Paul Gosar of Arizona and Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, challenging Trump's loss, sending lawmakers to their separate chambers to debate.
What does it say to the nearly half the country that believes this election was rigged if we vote not even to consider the claims of illegality and fraud in this election?
Meanwhile, around 2 p.m., the east side barricades are breached. Here's what I saw from outside the Capitol.
Half an hour ago, vehicle barriers that had been set up about 100 yards away or so from the Capitol were first breached by a group of protesters. Capitol Hill police retreated a little bit more. Then hundreds more protesters started to stream up this walkway in front of the Capitol. It is a remarkable scene.
On the west front, the mob tore down scaffolding, battled their way through the last line of police defense, and broke into the Capitol building itself. NewsHour congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins was inside the building reporting live as it happened.
Judy, there are protesters. Protesters have now broken into the U.S. Capitol.
And it will stand in recess until the call of the chair.
The Senate was called into recess and evacuated. The mob of Trump supporters roamed the historic halls, damaging property and searching for lawmakers. Security footage captured the moment Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman shuttled Republican Senator Mitt Romney of Utah to safety before running ahead to divert the approaching mob away from the Senate chamber. Rioters came within 100 feet of Vice President Mike Pence, whose security detail took him to safety from an office near the Senate. While this was happening at 2:24 p.m., Trump tweeted from the White House, criticizing Pence for not having, quote, the courage to do what should have been done. Remarkably, the House was still in session when rioters attempted to break into that chamber. A police officer shot Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran from California and QAnon conspiracy theorist, as she and a crowd tried to break into the rear of the chamber where some lawmakers were still sheltering. According to an analysis from the New York Times, rioters breached the Capitol in at least 8 different places. They entered the Rotunda, Statuary Hall, and the Senate chamber. Some broke into the offices of lawmakers, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's. Law enforcement arrived to clear a hallway above Statuary Hall, where NewsHour correspondent Lisa Desjardins was sheltered.
But I do hear shouting as police seem to one by one be taking down the protesters, telling them to get on the ground, trying to control the situation.
Democratic Senator Patty Murray from Washington State spoke with Judy Woodruff about hiding in her office with her husband that day.
And we heard somebody saying, we saw them, they're in one of these rooms. And they were pounding on our door and trying to open it. And my husband sat with his foot against the door, praying that it would not break in.
Meanwhile, outside, as the crowds grew, so did the violence. Officers on site continued to call for backup throughout the day. And while some reinforcements did arrive from local and state and federal agencies, it took National Guard units about 3 hours to respond to the Capitol.
Rioters, outnumbering law enforcement by more than 50 to 1, attacked, dragged, and beat police officers, crushing them underfoot and spraying them with chemicals.
They began to beat me with their fists and with what felt like hard metal objects.
In testimony to Congress, former D.C. Metro Police Officer Michael Fanone recounted being pulled into a crowd of protesters.
I was electrocuted again and again and again with a taser.
This is our capital!
In total, nearly 150 police officers were injured on the day. During the attack, those closest to President Trump privately urged him to take action and tell his supporters to stop the assault. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy spoke with him from the besieged Capitol. His son, Donald Trump Jr., and several Fox hosts texted White House contacts to tell Trump to address the crowd. Hours passed before President Trump did anything to address the insurrection. Just after 4 p.m., he released a video repeating unfounded claims about the election results.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace.
Around this time, police began to secure the Capitol. Flashbangs and tear gas were used to clear the Western Terrace, the site of presidential inaugurations. Police declared the Capitol complex secure around 8 p.m.
To those who wreaked havoc in our Capitol today, you did not win.
In the early hours of the next day, January 7th, Congress finished certifying the election results. Some Senate Republicans withdrew their initial objections.
The chair declares the joint session.
Our children will understand family, our children will have values, and our children will love God. Our country will prioritize free speech, respect freedom of religion, and honor our Constitution.
For the PBS NewsHour in Washington, I'm Amna Nawaz.
All odds, more than once. A man who believed in the promise of America when others turned away. A man who saw a nation in need of a champion and answered that call with unwavering determination and courage. A man who survived a bullet that was intended to eliminate him permanently from our future and from our family. Never have I been more proud to be a Trump.
That's when I smack the shit out you. I smack the
Never have I been more proud to stand by my father's side. I remain incredibly honored to be part of this journey, a journey with all of you, a journey to save the greatest country on earth, a journey with the most incredible people I have ever met. Dad, 5 days ago, Laura, Luke, Carolina, and I held our breath as we saw blood pour across your face. By the grace of God, divine intervention, and your guardian angels above, you survived.
They got gold, a gold
You are the
backdrop.
greatest fighter I have ever seen. You are strong, you are full of life, and you are unapologetic. Your optimism is contagious. Your backbone is unbreakable. Your conviction to fight for what is right and against all that is wrong is truly next level. The whole world saw your strength as you stood up. You wiped the blood off your face, and you put your fist in the air in a moment that will be remembered as one of the most courageous acts in the history of American politics. You shouted, "Fight, fight, fight!" I'm honored to be your son. I'm honored to speak to our great nation tonight. You are a true leader. You epitomize strength. Our country loves you. Our country appreciates you. Our country misses you. And on November 5th, our country will re-elect you as the 47th
That's when I
president
smack the
of
shit
the
out you. I
United
smack the
States
shit out.
of
That's when.
America. Good night, Milwaukee. God bless you all.
Police guarding the barriers and forced their way through.
Moments after Mr. Trump finished his more than hour-long speech, thousands of protesters streamed from that rally site and walked this route, down Pennsylvania Avenue, directly to the U.S. Capitol grounds.
Several people told us that day they expected Vice President Pence to overturn the 2020 election results.
What needs to happen today is Vice President Pence needs to not open the 7 state electors' envelopes for the states that I mentioned. Set them aside and send it all back to those state legislatures.
Well, we got to stop this steal from happening because if we don't, nobody's ever going to vote again. There's not going to be any integrity in our voting systems.
As the crowd grows, clashes between Trump supporters and Capitol police officers, clearly outnumbered, intensified.
We're not going to take it anymore. This is our country.
Outside, the Capitol's West Front became a battleground. Inside, the joint session of Congress to certify election results was underway. The traditionally ceremonial process is upended by Republicans.
So look, the guy that orchestrated Jan 6 is running again and wants to be president. The man who orchestrated Jan 6 wants to be president again.
Led by Representative Paul Gosar of Arizona and Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, challenging Trump's loss, sending lawmakers to their separate chambers to debate.
What does it say to the nearly half the country that believes this election was rigged if we vote not even to consider the claims of illegality and fraud in this election?
Meanwhile, around 2 p.m., the east side barricades are breached. Here's what I saw from outside the Capitol.
Half an hour ago, vehicle barriers that had been set up about 100 yards away or so from the Capitol were first breached by a group of protesters. Capitol Hill police retreated a little bit more. Then hundreds more protesters started to stream up this walkway in front of the Capitol. It is a remarkable scene.
On the West Front, the mob tore down scaffolding, battled their way through the last line of police defense, and broke into the Capitol building itself. NewsHour congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins was inside the building reporting live as it happened.
Judy, there are protesters. Protesters have now broken into the U.S. Capitol.
And it will stand in recess until the call of the chair.
The Senate was called into recess and evacuated. The mob of Trump supporters roamed the historic halls, damaging property and searching for lawmakers. Security footage captured the moment Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman shuttled Republican Senator Mitt Romney of Utah to safety before running.
But he refused to use it. As you can see on the screen, you can see the script is stamped "President has seen." The script said, quote, "I'm asking you to leave the Capitol region now and go home in a peaceful way." The president was urged to stick to this script, but he spoke off the cuff. Eric Hirschman and Nick Luna went with the president to film the message in the Rose Garden. Let's hear what they had to say and see the never-before-seen raw footage of the president recording this video message.
Ultimately, these remarks that we're looking at here in Exhibit 25 were not the remarks that the president delivered in the Rose Garden. Do you know why the president decided not to use these?
I don't know, sir. No, I do not know why.
Did the president use any written remarks to your knowledge, or did he just go off the cuff?
To my knowledge, it was off the cuff, sir.
Good, Chase?
Yep.
When you're ready, sir. Yep, you'll be right behind.
You tell me when.
When you're ready, sir.
Who's behind me?
He's gone around. We're all clear now.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had a election. Let me see. I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our group.
Had finished filming the video, and I think he was basically retiring for the day.
Was there any discussion about the president releasing a second video that day?
Not that I recall. When he finished his video, I think everyone was like, day's over. People were pretty drained.
Were pretty what?
Drained.
But we say day over, there were still people in the Capitol at that point, weren't there?
There were people in the Capitol, but I believe by this stage, law enforcement, and I'd have to go back and look, but I believe law enforcement was either there or moving in or going to take charge. I just say people were emotionally drained by the time that videotape was done.
Emotionally drained? At the White House? Here's what was happening at the same time at the Capitol. We warned the audience that this clip also contains strong language and violence.
Keep pushing, don't lose the momentum. Another officer unconscious. The sheriff. What sheriff?
Everybody, we need gas masks. We need weapons. We need strong, angry patriots to help our boys. They don't want to leave.
of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined. I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off.
But who would ever run for president and leave such a glamorous life? Appearances in movies, best-selling books, a widely popular TV show. But for Donald J. Trump, the calling to save his country was even stronger. The mission, more important. The number of Americans being left behind, too large. And so, in Donald Trump fashion, he announced he was running for president, in it to win. And he did.
From his first day in office, the Washington politicians learned something about President Trump. He's not afraid to fight for what he believes in. They call that having the courage of your convictions. First up, the Trump tax cuts, largest in America's history, and it led to higher take-home pay for working families. Unfortunately, today, taxes are up and incomes down. The politicians just never learn. Next for President Trump, secure our border. Check. Miles and miles of wall built. ISIS and other terrorists deterred. But now, we have the Barney Fife of border security, leading to 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl coming in. Brutal migrant crime spreading across America. And ISIS now here. President Trump promised he'd keep America out of endless wars. Welcome words
And
to
that's
the
so
families of our
interesting
young men and
because after the dude gets shot by some, by a gun advocate that's Republican, Biden speaks to that and says, he was sorry to hear that happen. There's no place for violence, et cetera, and we pray for your family, right? This guy calls Biden the Barney Fife. He makes up names and calls them names. It's just like days after, so it's very interesting, the messaging.
Then set the world on fire. Putin saw it, then invaded Ukraine. Hamas saw it, then started a war in the Middle East. There's one more thing we've learned about President Trump. He believes so strongly in America, so optimistic for our possibilities, and so committed to fighting to once again make our country great, that there is nothing that is going to stop him.
I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and fuck her. She was married.
It's huge news, Sarah.
No, Nancy. No, this was marriages. And I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where there's some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there. And she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
Pull the hand.
Hello, how are you? Hi.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube.
Sick people.
That was your coup, you know, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like
beginning.
when Millie's talking about, oh, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in. That's right. Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Millie, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record.
Okay, so Trump first says this is off the record. That's not indicative of anything related to the classification status of the documents. So far, no issue. Let's continue.
They presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. Wow. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know. Mm-hmm. Except it is like highly confidential.
Yeah.
This is secret information. Look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time, you know.
she'd send it to Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
the pervert. By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it, and you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can Probably, right?
I don't know, we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out
See, as president, I could have declassified.
Yeah.
Now
That is critical. That is critical.
I can't, but this is
Yeah,
classified.
now we have a problem.
Trump said, as president, I could have declassified it. And a staffer says, yeah, and laughs. And then Trump says, now I can't, but this is still a.
So 2 weeks ago, I got a call from President Trump asking me if I'd be willing to speak tonight. As usual, there was no pressure, no demands. He asked me as a friend, and of course I said yes. Then, after I accepted his offer, he sent me a text message, and I just want to read to you a little piece of what President Trump wrote to me. Dana, I'm so honored that you will be doing the introduction at the National Republican Convention. Think of it as the biggest fight you ever had, a fight for our country and even the world. I only wish you didn't have to interrupt your family trip, but I hope they understand they love you and they know how important this is. Now think about this. This man's running for president of the United States. He's fighting for the future of this country, and he's concerned about interrupting my family trip. That's the President Trump that I know, a man who truly cares about people. The mainstream media likes to push the narrative that he doesn't care about anyone but himself. I absolutely know that's not the truth because I've been friends with this guy for 25 years. And for the people who know me, they'll know this is true. I just want to make something very clear. Nobody in the Trump campaign has ever told me what to say. Nobody tells me what to say, and I'm nobody's puppet. And I'm not telling you what to think. I'm telling you what I know. And I know President Trump. I know President Trump is a fighter. I've been saying this since 2015. Now look at what's happened over the last 10 years. We have all seen it with our own eyes. I'm in the tough guy business, and this man is the toughest, most resilient human being that I've ever met in my life. The higher the stakes, the harder he fights, and this guy never, ever gives up. So what's at stake here? The answer is in President Trump's text, and I quote, "A fight for our country." I know why he's running for president again. Why else would he put himself through everything he's dealt with just to get back here? We all know he doesn't need this. This guy's got a great life. He has a beautiful family, and he has achieved everything that you could possibly achieve in life. I know President Trump is literally putting his life on the line for something bigger than himself, and he's willing to risk it all because he loves this country. And I know he wants what's best for the American people, all American people. I know he's running for president to save our American dream. I'm living the American dream, and I know the American dream is very real.
You could.
Whether you were born in this
shut
country
the fuck up.
or came here from someplace else, this is the last real land of opportunity. President Reagan once said, government's first duty is to protect the people, not run their lives. And if you're buried in government red tape, how will you ever start your own business? If you're struggling to pay your bills, how can you ever afford to start a family? And if you don't feel safe in your own town, why would you ever buy a house? I know that President Trump is fighting to save the American dream, and that's what's at stake in this election. We are choosing who we want to lead us in this fight. I know President Trump is a proven leader, a fearless leader, and this country was in a much better place when he was in the Oval Office. In my mind, the choice is clear. But this election, we all get to choose. I know I'm going to choose strength and security. I know I'm going to choose opportunity and prosperity. I know I'm going to choose real American leadership and a real American badass. And I'm not telling you what choice to make, and I'm not telling you what to think. I'm telling you what I know. I know America needs a strong leader, and the world needs a strong America. I know Donald J. Trump is the best choice for President of the United States. My fellow Americans, it is my honor to introduce the 45th and soon-to-be 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again, just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause our flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. To be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. Sing it. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit to Houston and New York to LA. There's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, but there ain't no doubt I love this land.
All right, Trump is about to speak now. Trump is about to speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Wow. And thank you, Dana. Thank you, Kid Rock, sometimes referred to as Bob. And thank you, Lee, right from the beginning. Thank you very much. What a talent. What a beautiful, beautiful soul. Thank you. Friends, delegates, and fellow citizens, I stand before you this evening with a message of confidence, strength, and hope. 4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country.
Project 2025.
Together we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we will do it right. Gonna do it right. Let me begin this evening by expressing my gratitude to the American people for your outpouring of love and support following the assassination attempt at my rally on Saturday. As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing. Payne was doing really well. I went to the stage and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right.
So you think you're going to live your life alone,
ready
in darkness,
to begin
in seclusion?
A little bit further turn.
Yeah, I know.
Which I'm very lucky.
You've been out there and tried to mix with the
when
animals.
I heard a loud whizzing
and it just
sound
left you full of humiliated
and felt
confusion.
something hit me really,
But the feeling
really
of loneliness
hard.
never leaves you. It haunts you
Right
everywhere
here.
you go.
I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. and moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely, but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper, and then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. And there's an interesting statistic. The ears are the bloodiest part. If something happens with the ears, they bleed more than any other part of the body. For whatever reason, the doctors told me that. I said, why is there so much blood? He said, it's the ears. They bleed more. So we learned something, but they just, this beautiful crowd, they didn't want to leave me. They knew I was in trouble. They didn't want to leave me. And you can see that love written all over their faces. They're incredible people. They're incredible people. Bullets were flying over us, yet I felt serene. But now the Secret Service agents were putting themselves in peril. They were in very dangerous territory. Bullets were flying right over them, missing them by a very small amount of inches. And then it all stopped. Our Secret Service sniper, from a much greater distance and with only one bullet used, took the assassin's life, took him out. I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here. No.
It's interesting how they have these shoes made fast. That's really interesting how they had these shoes ready to sell the day after.
But I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God. In watching the reports over the last few days, many people say it was a providential moment. Probably was. When I rose surrounded by Secret Service, the crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over, but I could see it, and I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." Thank you. Once my clenched fist went up, and it was high into the air. You've all seen that. The crowd realized I was okay and roared with pride for our country like no crowd I have ever heard before. Never heard anything like it. For the rest of my life, I will be grateful for the love shown by that giant audience of patriots that stood bravely on that fateful evening in Pennsylvania. Tragically, the shooter claimed the life of one of our fellow Americans, Corey, comparator, unbelievable person, everybody tells me. Unbelievable. And seriously wounded. Two other great warriors, spoke to them today. David Dutch and James Copenhaver, two great people. I also spoke to all three families of these tremendous people. Our love and prayers are with them and always will be. We're never going to forget them. They came for a great rally. They were serious Trumpsters, I want to tell you. They were serious Trumpsters and still are. But Corey, unfortunately, we have to use the past tense. He was incredible. He was a highly respected former fire chief, respected by everybody. Was accompanied by his wife, Helen, incredible woman. I spoke to her today, devastated, and two precious daughters. He lost his life selflessly acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit. What a fine man he was. I want to thank the fire department and the family for sending his helmet, his outfit, and it was just something, and they're going to do something very special when they get it, but we did something which cannot match what happened, not even close. But I am very proud to say that over the past few days, we've raised $6.3 million for the families of David, James, and Corey, including from a friend of mine, just called up, he sent me a check right here, I just got it, $1 million. Dan Newland, thank you, Dan. And again, when speaking to the family, I told them, I said, well, I'm going to be sending you a lot of money, but it can't compensate. They all said the same thing. You're right, sir. We appreciate so much what you're doing, but nothing can take the place in the case of Corey and the other two. By the way, they were very, very seriously injured, but now they're doing very well. They're going to be okay. They're going to be doing very well. They're warriors. So now I ask that we observe a moment of silence in honor of our friend Corey. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for others. This is the spirit that forged America in her darkest hours, and this is the love that will lead America back to the summit of human achievement and greatness. This is what we need. Despite such a heinous attack, we unite this evening more determined than ever. I am more determined than ever, and so are you. So is everybody in this room. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our resolve is unbroken and our purpose is unchanged to deliver a government that serves the American people better than ever before. Nothing will stop me in this mission because our vision is righteous and our cause is pure. No matter what obstacle comes our way, we will not break, we will not bend, we will not back down, and I will never stop fighting for you, your family, and our magnificent country. Never. And everything I have to give with all of the energy and fight in my heart and soul, I pledge to our nation tonight. Thank you very much. I pledge that to our nation. We're going to turn our nation around, and we're going to do it very quickly. Thank you. This election should be about the issues facing our country and how to make America successful, safe, free, and great again. In an age when our politics too often divide us, now is the time to remember that we are all fellow citizens. We are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we must not criminalize dissent or demonize political disagreement, which is what's been happening in our country lately at a level that nobody has ever seen before. In that spirit, the Democrat Party should immediately stop weaponizing the justice system and labeling their political opponent as an enemy of democracy. Especially since that is not true. In fact, I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country. And very big news, as you probably just read, on Monday, a major ruling was handed down from a highly respected federal judge in Florida, Eileen Cannon, finding that the prosecutor and the fake documents case against me were totally unconstitutional, and the entire case was thrown out of court. With all of that publicity, thrown out of court. If Democrats want to unify our country, they should drop these partisan witch hunts, which I have been going through for approximately 8 years. And they should do that without delay and allow an election to proceed that is worthy of our people. We're going to win it anyway, but worthy of our people. On this journey, I am deeply honored to be joined by my amazing wife, Melania. And Melania, thank you very much. You also did something really beautiful, a letter to America calling for national unity, and it really took the Republican Party by surprise. I will tell you, it was beautiful. In fact, some very serious people said that we should take that letter and put it as part of the Republican platform. That would be an honor, wouldn't it? Right, Mr. Congressman? But it captivated so many. So I also want to thank my entire family for being here. Don, Kimberly, Ivanka and Jared, Eric and Lara, Tiffany and Michael, Barron. We love our Barron. And of course, my 10 wonderful grandchildren. You saw a few of them up there on my lap before. And how good was Dana? Was Dana good? I mean, was he good? He was on probably the only vacation he's had in about, maybe ever, because he works, but about 10 years with his wife, very far away. I won't tell you where, but very, very far away, beautiful place. And my people called and he said, yeah, I won't be able to do it. This is many, many years. I promised my wife I can't do it. And they came in, they said, Dana won't be able to do it because he was my first, second, and third choice. I said, well, that's too bad, but I understand he's away and it's good. It's good for him. And that was it. About 30 minutes later, she came back in, sir, Dana just called, he's going to do it. And his wife, she said, you can't turn him down. You just can't do it. You have to go. That's a good wife. So he got on a plane. He got here a little while ago. Now he's going to get on the plane in a little while and he's going to go back home to his wife. But they're great. And I just want to thank her and him and their whole family because that's not easy. And Kid Rock, same thing. Called, he said, I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part because, Kid does his great song, Big, Big Monster song. I had no idea. He became a friend of mine over the last 10 years. And he's amazing. Everyone loves him. I didn't even know how big he was. He has rallies, 35, 40,000 people he gets every time he goes out. I think he's making so much money, he doesn't know what the hell to do with it. You want to know? And then we have my other friend, and I've known him so long, and we took that song, and it was a big success, but we made
It's
that.
all about the money for
I saw
Trump.
a chart
It's like,
of
did
great
you see he had the
songs
gold
to America.
background
That was
earlier
number one on the chart
when his son
recently,
was,
number
I
one.
believe,
So that's Lee
the
Greenwood,
idea that,
very special,
selling
beautiful
money,
person. He's a beautiful man.
And then he released this tennis
But
shoe
they
the
all
day
wanted
after
to
he
be
got
here. They
shot.
called, and how about the Hulkster? How good was he?
You see this tennis shoe? He released this tennis shoe the day after he got shot. I mean, it's all money, a money grab, essentially, for Trump. And he doesn't have any problem letting you know. But yet then people will vote for him because of stuff like this. They think that things like this can be put into play.
I say maybe entertainment, but he is one strong son of a gun. I will tell you.
Better
I watched
read
him
it.
many times. There aren't a lot of that can do that, right? You were fantastic. Thank you very much. Followed by Eric. What was that all about? Boy, that was good. I didn't want to really come up here. But he was so great, and he's such a good young man. He went through a lot of trouble, and Don last night was incredible. They went through so much trouble. They got subpoenaed more than any people probably in the history of the United States. Every week they get another subpoena.
You know what? I haven't heard Trump talk about his platform at all. Like, I haven't heard him say anything really vital. Like, why would you vote for him? Not, he shows you that somebody tried to shoot him. Then he, talks about how bad the other party is. But what does he really say in depth about his platform? He says a few basic things like, jobs were up under me and, stuff like that. The economy was up over me. Things that we've all heard before. All candidates say that, right? But what's different about his plan when he's talking about it? And then when people ask him about Project 2025, he says he doesn't know anything about it. That's what he actually says.
Jason, thank you very much. Jason Aldean, he's good. I like his wife even better, by the way. She's here. Thank you, Jason.
I mean, he's spending a lot of time on nothing
But I'm
here.
thrilled to have a new friend and partner fighting by my side. The next Vice President of the United States, the current Senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance, and his incredible wife, Usha. He's going to be a great Vice President. He's going to be great.
Yeah, make America great
this
again.
Country and with his movement, greatest movement in the history of our
exactly
country.
what it
Make
is.
America great again. When they criticize it, they say, we're going to try and stop MAGA. I said, MAGA is making America great again. What are you going to stop? There's nothing to stop. Then they say, oh, that's right. It's very tough to fight it. And all of the people that did try and fight it have failed. But he's going to be with us for a long time, and it was an honor to select him. Great student at Yale. His wife was a great student at Yale. They met at Yale. These are two smart people. So, JD, you're going to be doing this for a long time. Enjoy the ride. And a very special thank you to the extraordinary people of Milwaukee and the great state of, oh, there they are. There they are. You are so easy to spot. And Green Bay's going to have a good team this year, right? They're going to have a good team. They're going to have a good team. Most of the audience doesn't like it, but it's true. You're going to have a very good team this year. And by the way, Wisconsin, we are spending over $250 million here, creating jobs and other economic development all over the place. So I hope you will remember this in November and give us your vote. I am trying to buy your vote. I'll be honest about that. And I promise we will make Wisconsin great again. We're going to make it. Thank you, Mr. Governor. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm here tonight to lay out a vision for the whole nation. To every citizen, whether you're a young or old man or woman, Democrat, Republican, or independent, black or white, Asian or Hispanic, I extend to you a hand of loyalty and of friendship. Together, we will lead America to new heights of greatness like the world has never seen before. We were right there in the first term. We got hit with COVID. We did a great job. Nobody knew what it was, but nobody's ever seen an economy pre-COVID. And then we handed over a stock market that was substantially higher than just prior to COVID. Coming in, did a great job. Never got credit for that. We got credit for the war and defeating ISIS and so many things, the great economy, the biggest tax cuts ever, the biggest regulation cuts ever, the creation of Space Force, the rebuilding of our military. We did so much. We did so much. Right to try. Right to try is a big deal. We got right to try. They were trying to get that for 52 years. Somebody's terminally ill, and hopefully there's nobody in this audience, but it does happen a lot. They're terminally ill and they can't use our new space age drugs and other things that we are way ahead. We have the greatest doctors in the world, the greatest laboratories in the world, and you can't do it. They've been trying to get that approved for 52 years. Wasn't that easy? The insurance companies didn't want to do it. They didn't want the risk. The labs didn't want to do it because if it didn't work, people are pretty far down the line toward death. They didn't want to do it. The doctors didn't want to have it on their records, so I got everybody into an office. 52 years they tried. Sounds simple, but it's not. And I got them to agree that somebody that needs it will, instead of going to Asia, Europe, or someplace, or if you have no money, going home and dying, just die. We got them to sign an agreement, agree to it, where they're not going to sue anybody. They're going to get all of this stuff. They're going to get it really fast. And what's happened is we're saving thousands and thousands of lives. It's incredible. Right to try. It's a great feeling. Under our leadership, the United States will be respected again. No nation will question our power. No enemy will doubt our might. Our borders will be totally secure. Our economy will soar. We will return law and order to our streets, patriotism to our schools, and importantly, we will restore peace, stability, and harmony all throughout the world. But to achieve this future, we must first rescue our nation from failed and even incompetent leadership. We have totally incompetent leadership. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. Under the current administration, we are indeed a nation in decline. We have an inflation crisis that is making life unaffordable, ravaging the incomes of working and low-income families, and crushing, just simply crushing our people like never before. They've never seen anything like it. We also have an illegal immigration crisis, and it's taking place right now as we sit here in this beautiful arena. It's a massive invasion at our southern border that has spread misery, crime, poverty, disease, and destruction to communities all across our land. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Then there's an international crisis, the likes of which the world has seldom been part of. Nobody can believe what's happening. War is now raging in Europe and the Middle East. A growing specter of conflict hangs over Taiwan, Korea, the Philippines, and all of Asia. And our planet is teetering on the edge of World War III. And this will be a war like no other war because of weaponry. The weapons are no longer army tanks going back and forth shooting at each other. These weapons are obliteration.
Time to sell fear.
It's time for a change. This administration can't come close to solving the problems. We're dealing with very tough, very fierce people. They're fierce people. And we don't have fierce people. We have people that are a lot less than fierce, except when it comes to cheating
Trump
on
is the
elections
best
and
at
a couple of
selling
other
fear.
things. Then they're fierce. Then they're fierce. So tonight, I make this pledge to the great people of America. I will end the devastating inflation crisis immediately, bring down interest rates, and lower the cost of energy. We will drill, baby, drill. Can you believe what they're doing? But by doing that, we will lead a large-scale decline in prices. Prices will start to come down. Energy raised it. They took our energy policies and destroyed them. Then they immediately went back to them, but by that time, so much was lost. But we will do it at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And we'll end lots of different things. We'll start paying off debt and start lowering taxes even further. We gave you the largest tax cut. We'll do it more. You know, people don't realize I brought taxes way down, way down, and yet we took in more revenues the following year than we did when the tax rate was much higher. Most people said, how did you do that? Because it was incentive. Everybody was coming to the country. They were bringing back billions
You don't know
and
how
billions
anything
of
get
dollars
done
into
anyway.
our country. The companies made it impossible to bring it back. The tax rate was too high, and the legal complications were far too great. I changed both of them, and hundreds of billions of dollars by
Trump, the
Apple and so
technician.
many other companies were brought back into our nation, and we had an economy the likes of which no nation had ever seen. China, we were beating them at levels that were incredible. And they know it. They know it. We'll do it again, but we'll do it even better. I will end the illegal immigration crisis by closing our border and finishing the wall, most of which I've already built. On the wall, we were dealing with a very difficult Congress. And I said, oh, that's okay. We won't go to Congress. I call it an invasion. We gave our military almost $800 billion. I said, I'm going to take a little of that money because this is an invasion. And we built, most of the wall is already built. And we built it through using the funds because what's better than that? We have to stop the invasion into our country that's killing hundreds of thousands of people a year. We're not going to let that happen. I will end every single international crisis that the current administration has created, including the horrible war with Russia and Ukraine, which would have never happened if I was president, and the war caused by the attack on Israel, which would have never happened if I was president. Iran was broke. Iran had no money. Now Iran has $250 billion. They made it all over the last 2.5 years. They were
Donald
broke.
Trump
I watched the other
is
day
going
on
to
a show
shake
called
down
Assassination.
countries.
Has anyone seen it? And
He's
then a
going to
congressman
want to
who's a
get
Democrat
business
say,
for his
well, whether you
own
like it or
family
not, Iran
when he's
was broke.
making
Do you
deals
think
on
if I told
behalf
China
of
and
the
other
United
countries,
States
if
of
you buy
America.
from Iran, we will not let you
But he'll
do
be
any
immune.
business in this country, and we will
He will be immune.
100% or more. Well, I think that's about it. They weren't going to buy any. And they were ready to make a deal. Iran was going to make a deal with us. And then we had that horrible, horrible result that we'll never let happen again. The election result, we're never going to let that happen again. They used COVID to cheat. We're never going to let it happen again. And they took off all the sanctions and they did everything possible for Iran. And now Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon, which would have never happened. This is a shame what this administration, the damage that this administration has done. And I say it often, if you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. Only going to use the term once. Biden, I'm not going to use the name anymore, just one time. The damage that he's done to this country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. Together we will restore vision, strength, competence, and we're going to have a thing called common sense making most of our decisions, actually. It's all common sense. Just a few short years ago, under my presidency, we had the most secure border and best economy in the history of our country, in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had never done anything like it. We were beating every country, including China, by leaps and bounds. Nobody had seen anything like it. We had no inflation, soaring incomes were going. Nobody can believe it. You can't believe what happened 4 years ago is happening now in reverse. And the world
was at peace. Inflation has been a killer for our country. No matter what you make it doesn't matter because inflation is eating you alive. People that were putting away money, they were making great wages, the highest they've ever made, but they were putting away a lot of money. Now they are just being destroyed. They're not putting away anything. They're barely living. They're going into savings accounts. They're taking out their money to live because of inflation. Inflation, remember, it's called a country buster. You can go back to Germany from 100 years ago. You can go back to any country that suffered great inflation. We've suffered the worst inflation we've ever had. But go back and see what's happened to those countries. We've had the worst inflation we've ever had under this person. But in less than 4 years, our opponents have turned incredible success into unparalleled tragedy and failure. It's been a tremendous failure. Today, our cities are flooded with illegal aliens. Americans are being squeezed out of the labor force and their jobs are taken. By the way, you know who's taking the jobs that are created? 107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens. And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population, and they're also taking them from unions. The unions are suffering because of it. Thank you. Thank you. I like you too. Thank you very much.
If you read
Inflation has
Project
wiped
20,
out the life
25,
savings of our citizens
they're
and
trying to
forced
get
the middle
away
class into a state of depression and
from
despair.
unions.
That's what it is. It's despair.
They're
and
complaining
depression.
about
We cannot
unions
and will
in
not
Project
let this
2025.
continue. Less than 4 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. We're going to be a great nation again.
You know, his speech have a pattern.
Thank you.
And the pattern in his speech is like self-fear and then victory. And in fear, you're doing so bad, you're not doing well, things are so bad, but we're going to change it again, you know. And then he goes back down into the fear again, and then we're going to change it again, you know. It's just like up and down. And when he's selling it, listen to his voice too. He sells misery really, really well. Donald Trump. He knows how to sell it.
And by the way, the news reports, look at all of those big networks. Look at them. They're all here. But every one of them has said this could be the most organized, best run, and most enthusiastic convention of either party that they've ever seen. Every single one. And it's true. It's true. And there's love in the room. There's great love in the room. So I better finish strong. Otherwise, we'll blow it. And we can't let that happen. Now, this was great. All of the great people that spoke, and everybody hit a home run. I mean,
He
there's
is
not one that I
lame.
can think of where I said, oh, gee, that wasn't great. Every single person. I refuse to be the only one. Don't do that to me. They're already getting ready. See, I gave him an idea. Now, this was a great convention. This was, I think we're actually going to go home and miss it. You know, usually with a first of all,
Oh my God,
look at
he's
these
so
crowds. You'd never have
annoying.
this at a convention. Look at these crowds.
He's like a used car salesman.
Love, it's
from
about
the
love.
80s.
This week, the entire Republican Party has formally adopted an agenda for America's renewal, and you saw that agenda. And it's very short compared to the long, boring, meaningless agendas of the past, including the Democrats. They write these things that are hundreds of pages long, and they never read them after they're done. In their case, fortunately, they don't read them because they're pretty bad. It's a series of bold promises that we will swiftly implement when you give us a Republican House
And Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. We have our great Speaker of the House with us tonight. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Thank you. A Republican Senate, we have many senators here. And send me back to our beautiful White House just a few short months from now. We're talking about just months. It can't come fast enough. We have
And
to
look,
get it done.
they're already threatening
First, we
violence
must get economic
if Trump
relief
don't win.
to our citizens. Starting on day one, we will drive down prices and make America affordable again. We have to make it affordable. It's not affordable. People can't live like this. Under this administration, our current administration, groceries are up 57%, gasoline is up 60 and 70%, mortgage rates have quadrupled. And the fact is, it doesn't matter what they are because you can't get the money anyway. Can't buy houses. Young people can't get any financing to buy a house. The total household costs have increased an average of $28,000 per family under this administration. Republicans have a plan to bring down prices and bring them down very, very rapidly. By slashing energy costs, we will in turn reduce the cost of transportation, manufacturing, and all household goods. So much starts with energy. And remember, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country by far. We are a nation that has the opportunity to make an absolute fortune with its energy.
Look, the United States is the top oil supplier in the world, pretty much. The U.S. is producing more oil than anywhere else in the world, you know, and that's the funny thing about it. That's under Biden. That's not under Trump. But yet he's talking about it like it's bad. But actually, right now, the U.S. is the highest producer.
Has ever seen, and we will reduce our debt, $36 trillion. We will start reducing that, and we will also reduce your taxes still further. Next, and by the way, they want to raise your taxes 4 times. Think of it. And all my life, I grew up watching politicians. I always loved politics. I guess I was on the other side. I'd watched and they were always talking about, we will give you a tax cut. We will give you a tax cut. My whole life I was watching, I will give you a tax cut, right, Mr. Congressman? That's all they talked about. This is the only administration that said, we're going to raise your taxes by 4 times what you're paying now, and people are supposed to vote for them? I've never heard it. You're paying too much. We're going to reduce your taxes still further. We gave you the biggest one, as I said. We're going to give you more. And it's going to lead to tremendous growth. We want growth in our country. That's what's going to pay off our debt. And next, we will end the ridiculous and actually incredible waste of taxpayer dollars that is fueling the inflation crisis. They spent trillions of dollars on things having to do with the Green New Scam. It's a scam. And that's caused tremendous inflationary pressures in addition to the cost of energy. And all of the trillions of dollars that are sitting there not yet spent, we will redirect that money for important projects like roads, bridges, dams, and we will not allow it to be spent on meaningless Green New Scam ideas. And I will end the electric vehicle mandate on day 1. Thereby saving the U.S. auto industry from complete obliteration, which is happening right now, and saving
That's
US
not
customers
true. That's not
thousands
true.
and thousands
Look,
of dollars per car.
you don't want to cut any of those programs because they're designed to help automakers make these cars to stay in the market, because a big part of the market today isn't just gas automobiles. This guy is crazy, man.
Our country, no tax, no anything. The United Auto Workers ought to be ashamed for allowing this to happen. And the leader of the United Auto Workers should be fired immediately. And every single auto worker, union and non-union, should be voting for Donald Trump, because we're going to bring back car manufacturing and we're going to bring it back fast. They're building some of
He's talking about cutting the, stopping the investing in the electric cars. But USA car makers, in order to stay in the market, they have to make electric cars too. They can't just make gas cars. It's crazy.
And if they don't agree with us, we'll put a tariff of approximately 100 to 200% on each car, and they will be unsellable in the United States. We have long been taken advantage of by other countries. And think of it, oftentimes these other countries are considered so-called allies. They've taken advantage of us for years. We lose jobs, we lose revenue, and they gain everything and wipe out our businesses, wipe out our people. I stopped it for 4 years. I stopped it. And we're really ready to make changes like nobody had seen before. And remember, USMCA, I got rid of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, and replaced it with USMCA, which is, they say, the best trade deal ever made. Actually, probably the best trade deal was the deal I made with China, where they buy $50 billion worth of our product. They were buying nothing. They buy $50 billion worth. They had to. But I don't even talk about it because of COVID. I don't even mention it, frankly, because of what happened with.
He promised to have Mexico pay for the wall, but did they pay for the wall? So he has all these great deals, but I guarantee you, if you research any of them, likely they didn't turn out the way he's saying.
They come and do that. They plunder our nation. The way they will sell their product in America is to build it in America. Very simple. Build it in America and only in America.
But not electric cars. Are these shoes produced in America? I wonder. I'm going to check
And
right
this
now.
very simple formula, and Congress has to go along with us, and they will. This very simple formula will create massive numbers of jobs. We will take over the auto industry again, and many hundreds of thousands of jobs. We lost so many jobs over the years. If you go back 20, 25 years, they've stolen, going to China and Mexico, about 68% of our auto industry manufacturing jobs. We're going to get them all back. We're going to get them all back, every one of them. At the center of our plan for economic relief are massive tax cuts for workers that include something else that's
All right, check this out, y'all. This is so funny. Hold on.
It's very popular in this
Leave
building.
this on. Oops.
And all those hotels that I saw that are so nice.
This is so funny. Look at this. Check this out.
No, most of Donald Trump's branded shoes are not made in America. They are primarily manufactured in countries like China and other parts of Asia. This fact has been noted in discussions about the sourcing of products associated with Trump, given his emphasis on promoting American manufacturing.
Nevada, where we're leading by about 14 points. Hello. I'll see you there very soon, everybody. And we're having dinner at a beautiful restaurant.
We got to make it in America.
The Trump building on the Strip.
He didn't
And
make his
it's a
shoes.
Great building, and the waitress comes over. How's everything going? A really nice person. How's everything? Oh, sir, it's so tough. The government's after me all the time on tips. I said, well, they give you cash. Would they be able to find him? She said, actually, and I didn't know this. She said, very little cash is given. It's all put right on the check. And they come in and they take so much of our money. It's just ridiculous. And they don't believe anything we say. And they've just hired, as you know, 88,000 agents to go after them even more. And I said, this shows the level of my, most people got their hire consultants. They pay millions of dollars. But I said to her, let me just ask you a question. Would you be happy if you had no tax and tips? She said, what a great idea. I got my information from a very smart waitress. That's better than spending millions of dollars.
So you mean to tell me when he was president and before he became president, he never met any waitresses that complained about tips. And now all of a sudden, that's how he got this idea.
They make money, let them keep their money. I'm going to protect Social Security and Medicare. Democrats are going to destroy Social Security and Medicare because all of these people, by the millions they're coming in, they're going to be on Social Security and Medicare and other things, and you're not able to afford it. They are destroying your Social Security and your Medicare. Under my plan, incomes will skyrocket, inflation will vanish completely, jobs will come roaring back, and the middle class will prosper like never, ever before, and we're going to do it very rapidly.
How?
But no hope or dream we have.
Look, how are you going to do that rapidly? You're just going to snap your fingers and it's just going to happen rapidly. But jobs are also up according under the Biden administration. So at the end of the day, what is he really saying? They're going to get higher, but how are they going to, how is your income going to be greater each month? I'm curious about that.
Brandon Judd, the Border Patrol, he's incredible. These guys, they really, their job is a lot easier if they don't have to do anything, but they want to. They're patriots. Brandon Judd, Border Patrol, ICE. ICE goes out. You have to see what ICE does with MS-13. You have these are probably the worst gang, and ICE goes in there. And I know a lot of people in these rows here, and they're very tough people, but they don't want to do this job. They'll go into a pack of MS-13 killers. They're the worst, probably the worst gangs in the world. We have thousands of them. I moved thousands and thousands out in my 4 years. We moved them out, and it was a pleasure. But ICE would go right into a pack of these killers, and you see fists flying, you see everything flying, and then they take them. They put them in a paddy wagon. They take them back, and they get them out of our country. And the other countries weren't accepting them back, and I called up, and I said, tell them that we're not giving them economic aid anymore. And the next day, I got calls from all of these countries that were terminated. Billions of dollars we spend on economic aid to countries that does us, frankly, no good. And the next day I was called by everybody. I couldn't take all the calls. Sir, what's the problem? I said, you won't take your killers back that you sent in caravans into America. You won't take them back. Well, sir, if you'd like us to, we would give very serious consideration to doing that. And within 24 hours, they were being taken back. For years and years, when I first came in, they said President Obama tried to get him to go back, and they wouldn't accept him. They'd put planes on the runway so you couldn't leave the plane. They'd close the road so you couldn't take the buses. They'd all have to turn back. As soon as I said no more economic aid of any kind to any country that does that, they called back and they said, sir, it would be our great honor to take MS-13. We love them very much. We love them very much, sir. We'll take them back. At the heart of the Republican platform is our pledge to end this border nightmare and fully restore the sacred and sovereign borders of the United States of America. And we're going to do that on day one. That means two things on day one, right? Drill, baby, drill, and close our borders. And by the way, and I think everybody as a Republican is
just a little
factoid.
factoid.
Most Democrats.
I just fact checked the gang member removal under Trump and Biden, and it appears that actually it's higher under Biden. There's more people from that background Trump was talking about that have been removed from the country. But look, I'm gonna go back. Remind me to go back and show y'all the data so we can look at it.
Proud of it. I think it's one of the greatest. It was done by the.
I think Trump, he lies at such a fast rate that people don't have enough time to keep up with his lies to fact check them. But it's the media's job to fact check these statements that he makes, and if none of these media companies fact check them based on this speech right here, then they're not doing their job, and they should fact check each and every statement he makes. And they shouldn't go light on him like they did during the Biden and Trump speech. They need to get right to it fast.
You got to see this chart. I was so proud of it. And by the time I got to there, I never got to see it that day. But I'm seeing it now, and I was very proud. If you look at the arrow in the bottom, that's the lowest level, the one on the bottom, heavy red arrow. That's the lowest level of illegal immigrants ever to come into our country in recorded history, right there. Right there. And that was my last week in office. And then you see what happened after I left. Look at the rest. And if you go out a little bit further, it's getting to be a little bit old, but I love it anyway, right? But you can go much higher with those numbers. Look what happened right after that. The invasion began. We had the opposite. We stopped the invasion, but the invasion that we stopped was peanuts by comparison to what happened after I left. Look at what happened after I left. They took over our country. We ended all catch and release. We shut down asylum fraud. We stopped human trafficking and forged historic agreements to keep illegal aliens on foreign soil. We want them to stay on their soil. Under the Trump administration, if you came in illegally, you were apprehended immediately and you were deported. You went right back. The current administration terminated every single one of those great Trump policies that I put in place to seal the border. I wanted a seal border. Again, come in, but come in legally. You know how unfair it is? So many people, hundreds of thousands of people have been working for years to come into our country. And now they see these people pour into our country at levels that are unprecedented. It's so unfair. And we're not going to do it. We're not going to stand for it. They suspended wall construction, ended remain in Mexico. We had a policy, remain in Mexico. You think that was easy to get from the Mexican government? But I said, you must give it to us. If you don't give it to us, there will be repercussions. And they gave it to us, but not easy. Canceled our Safe Third agreements. Demolished Title 42, implemented nationwide catch and release. That's catch and release, where we catch them and release them into our country. We catch them and release them into Mexico. It was a slight
You hear how long he spends on this part
and
too?
took 93.
It's like, you see, he like got to this point and now he's going to extend, he's going to talk more about this just illegal immigration. But the thing about it is that he just repeats the same things with it. There's nothing really specific he's saying. Actually, he made one statement that he made it sound like he had more gang members sent back than Biden or than ever before, you know. And I don't think the data actually says that, you know. But people should look into those specifics. But this guy goes on and on and on when he wants to home something in. So at the end of the day, in terms of all the stuff that he says in his whole speech, he ends up saying less.
Has anyone seen Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He'd love to have you for dinner. That's insane asylums. They're emptying out their insane asylums.
See, there's no real
And
information
terrorists
there.
are coming in at numbers that we've never seen before. Bad things are going to happen. Meanwhile, our crime rate is going up, while crime statistics all over the world are going down, because they're taking their criminals and they're putting them into our country, a certain country. And I happen to like the president of that country very much, but he's been getting great publicity because he's a wonderful shepherd of the country. He says how well the country's doing because their crime rate is down. And he said he's training all of these rough people. They're rough. He's training them. And I've been reading about this for 2 years. I think, oh, that's wonderful. Let's take a look at it. But then I realized he's not training them. He's sending all of his criminals, his drug dealers, his people that are in jails, he's sending them all to the United States. And he's different in that he doesn't say that. He's trying to convince everybody what a wonderful job he does in running the country. Well, he doesn't do a wonderful job. And by the way, if I ran one of the countries, many countries from all over, I would be worse than any of them. I would have had the place totally emptied out already. But we become a dumping ground for the rest of the world, which is laughing
I'm
at
not impressed by this speech at all. It's really an empty a speech, with a lot of empty promises. It seems like, and a lot of focus in areas with no detail, just a promise, of something. I don't understand how American people would think to elect this guy as president again. It's one thing also to say that you wouldn't elect Biden, but let's be honest. Would you really elect this guy over Biden? Would you really elect him over Biden? Okay.
We will not be able to have it there in El Salvador. Murders are down by 70%. Why are they down? Now, he would have you convinced that because he's trained. The United States of America. This is going to be very bad. And bad things are going to happen, and you're seeing it happen all the time. That's why, to keep our families safe, the Republican platform promises to launch the largest deportation operation in the history of our country. Even larger than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower from many years ago. He was a moderate, but he believed very strongly in borders. He had the largest deportation operation we've ever had. Just recently, I spoke to the grieving mother of Jocelyn Nungary, a wonderful woman, a precious 12-year-old girl from Houston who last month was tied up, assaulted, and strangled to death after walking to the convenience store just a block away from her house. Her body was dumped near the side of the road in a shallow creek, found by some onlookers who couldn't believe what they had witnessed. Charged with Jocelyn's heinous murder are 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela who came across our border, were in custody, and were then released into the country by this horrible, horrible administration that we have right now. I also met recently with the heartbroken mother and sister of Rachel Morin. Rachel was a 37-year-old mom of 5 beautiful children who was brutally raped and murdered while out on a run. She wanted to keep herself in good shape. It was very important to her. She was murdered. The monster responsible first killed another woman in El Salvador before he was led into America by the White House. This White House let them in. He then attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother in a home invasion in Los Angeles before murdering Rachel in Maryland. Traveled all throughout the country, doing tremendous damage. Rachel's mother will never be the same. I spent time with her. She will never be the same. I've also met with the wonderful family of Laken Riley, the brilliant 22-year-old nursing student. She was so proud of being first in her class, who was out for a jog on the campus of the University of Georgia when she was assaulted, beaten, and horrifically killed. Yet another American life was stolen by a criminal alien set free by this administration. And these were incredible people we're talking about. These were incredible people who died. Tonight, America, this is my vow. I will not let these killers and criminals into our country. I will keep our sons and daughters safe. As we bring security to our streets, we will help bring stability to the world. I was the first president in modern times to start no new wars. We were the toughest. We were the most respected.
Look, check this out.
You
How
saw
slick this is,
those
y'all.
hungry.
In
strong
reality, if you read Project 2025, they want to take down government wages. Yes. If you read this, it says they want to take down government wages. Project 2025, we're going to get into that after his speech. But here he wants to shut down the border. But so does that mean he wants to hire more people to accomplish that goal? And if so, how many? And are those private contractors or government contractors? And if they're private contractors, how much do they get paid? Because they want to slash government jobs, payroll. They think government workers get paid too much. I'm serious. They say that in Project 2025.
Russia was afraid of him. China was afraid of him. Everybody was afraid of him. Nothing was going to happen. The whole world was at peace. And now the world is blowing up around us. All of these things that you read about were not going to happen. Under President Bush, Russia invaded Georgia. Under President Obama, Russia took Crimea. Under the current administration, Russia is after all of Ukraine. Under President Trump, Russia took nothing.
But he publicly said he doesn't want to defend Ukraine. He publicly said it. He wouldn't defend Ukraine. So what? That's a total, that's some serious.
Something that was said to take 5 years, sir. It'll take 5 years, sir. We did it in a matter of a couple of months. We have a great military. Our military is not woke. It's just some of the fools on top that are woke. I got along very well. North Korea, Kim Jong-un, I got along very well with him. The press hated when I said that. How could you get along with him? Well, it's nice to get along with somebody who has a lot of nuclear weapons or otherwise, isn't it? See, in the old days, they say that's a wonderful thing. Now they say, how could you possibly do that? But no, I got along with them, and we stopped the missile launches from North Korea. Now North Korea is acting up again, but when we get back, I get along with him. He'd like to see me back, too. I think he misses me, if you want to know.
CNN better, and the news agencies better fact check him on each statement.
Our opponents inherited a world at peace and turned it into a planet of war. We're in a planet of war. Look at that attack on Israel. Look at what's happening with Ukraine. The cities are just bombed out. How can people live like that where massive buildings are falling to the ground?
What about what happened to the Palestinians?
It began to unravel with the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the worst humiliation in the history of our country. We have never had a humiliation like that. 13 heroic U.S. service members were tragically and needlessly killed. 45 others were horrifically wounded. Nobody ever talks about them. No arms, no legs. Face explosions, horrifically wounded. And by the way, we have a man in this room who's running for the U.S. Senate from a great state, Nevada, named Sam Brown, who paid the ultimate price. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. He paid the biggest price probably ever paid by anybody that is running for office, and I think he's going to do great. He's running against a person that is not good, not respected, a total lightweight. But Sam, I think, paid really, we were talking about it with some of the senators that are working so hard for Sam, but he paid the biggest price of any senator ever to run for the Senate. I don't think anybody's ever what he did. He was a real hero, a really great person. And he's running, and I hope that everybody gets out and votes for Sam Brown. And we also left behind $85 billion worth of military equipment, along with many American citizens were left behind. Many American citizens, emboldened by that disaster, Russia invaded Ukraine. They saw this group of people that were incompetent. We took the soldiers out first. No, we're going to take the soldiers out second. If they would have followed my plan, we had a great plan. But the plan only kicked in if they did everything perfectly, and they weren't doing things perfectly, so we said it doesn't kick in. 18 months in Afghanistan, we didn't have one, so they were killing them left and right, snipers. And I spoke to the head of the Taliban
You've heard this story. Abdul, still there, still the head of the Taliban. The press got on me. Why would you speak to him? I said, because that's where the killing is. I don't have to speak to somebody that has nothing to do with it. And I told him, don't ever do that. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever, ever do that again. You got to stop. Because during the Obama administration, many great people and soldiers, a lot of soldiers were being killed from long distance. I said, if you keep doing that, you're going to be hit harder than
Sounded to
anybody's
me
ever
like he
been
just
hit by a
rambling.
country before. And he said, I understand, Your Excellency. He called me Your Excellency. I wonder if he calls the other guy Your Excellency. I doubt it. The other guy gave him everything. I mean,
Doesn't
what kind of a
this
deal was
sound
that?
like
He walked out, gave him
rambling?
everything.
He's just
You know
rambling.
that right now
There's no
Afghanistan is one
substance
of
in
the
it.
largest sellers of weapons in the world. They're selling the brand new, beautiful weapons that we gave them. But think of it, he actually said to me, but why do you show me a picture of my home? I said, you'll have to ask your people or one of your wives. But he could figure it out. And for 18 months, we had not one attack on an American soldier by the Taliban. 18 months. And then we had that horrible day where soldiers were killed. I was not there because of a ridiculous election. But we had that horrible attack. And they also gave up Bagram, one of the biggest bases anywhere in the world, air bases anywhere in the world, the longest runways, most powerful, hardened, thickened runways. We gave it up. And I liked it not because of Afghanistan. I liked it because of China. It's 1 hour away
When
from where
Trump
China
made the
makes it.
deal for the U.S., when he signed that deal to have the U.S. move its base and its deployment out of Afghanistan, what did he do to prepare them to leave? Or did he just do nothing and just pass it over to Biden? You know, that's what. Let's fact check that also.
Submarines in
I'm going to do that right
Cuba.
now.
I will tell you that the headlines every day would be, what's wrong with our president? You don't even hear this. You're not hearing about this. Russia has nuclear submarines and warships 60 miles away, Mr. Congressman, from Miami, by the way, happens to be here. Correct? In Cuba. And that would not be stood for if it were somebody else. They don't want to mention it, but now maybe they will. And the entire world, I tell you this, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price. With our victory in November, the years of war, weakness, and chaos will be over. I don't have wars. I had no wars other than ISIS, which I defeated, but that was a war that was started. We had no wars. I could stop wars with a telephone call. I could stop wars with just a telephone call. If properly stated, it would never start. We will replenish our military and build an Iron Dome missile defense system to ensure that no enemy can strike our homeland. And this great Iron Dome will be built entirely in the USA. We're going to build it in the USA. And Wisconsin, just like I gave you that massive ship contract, and you're doing a very nice job, Governor, right? Thank you, Governor. And they're doing a great job. In fact, I had a little design change, and we gave them a tremendous for essentially what we used to call destroyers. These are now the most beautiful. They look like yachts. I said, we have to take the bow and we have to make it a little nicer and a little point at the top instead of a flat nose. And the people at the shipyard said, this guy sort of knows what he's doing. We have the most beautiful ships, right, Governor? And everybody's sitting over there. And it was a big contract that everybody wanted. I gave it to Wisconsin, but we're going to have
a lot of that built right here in the state of Wisconsin and all other states. Israel has an Iron Dome. They have a missile defense system. 342 missiles were shot into Israel, and only one got through a little bit. It was badly wounded. It fell to the ground, but most of them are. And Ronald Reagan wanted this many years ago, but we really didn't have the technology many years ago. Remember, they called it Starship, spaceship, anything to mock him. But he was a very good president, very, very good. But now we have unbelievable technology. And why should other countries have this and we don't? No, we're going to build an Iron Dome over our country, and we're going to be sure that nothing can come and harm our people. And again, from an economic development standpoint, we're going to make it all right here. No more sending it out to other countries in order to help. It's America first. America first. We will unleash the power of American innovation. And as we do, we will soon be on the verge of finding the cures to cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and many other diseases. We're going to get to the bottom of it. You remember this gentleman that I don't want to mention other than one time I had to, because when you say you're the 10 worst, I had to do it. I didn't want anybody to be confused.
See, this is rambling.
Said, we're going to find a cure to cancer. Nothing happened. We're going to get to the cure for cancer and Alzheimer's and so many other things.
It's rambling.
We're so close
He just
to doing
repeated the
something
same thing
great.
3 times. We're going to get to the cure. We're going to get to the cure.
A leader that will let it be done. We will not have men playing in women's sports. That will end immediately.
And look how fast he just jumped over from one thing to the next after saying nothing really in depth. Now he's on to.
And we will restore and renovate our nation's once great cities, making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. And that includes our nation's capital, which is a horrible killing field. So many things. They leave from Wisconsin. They go to look at the Washington Monument. They end up getting stabbed, killed, or shot. We will be very soon very proud of our capital. Again, Washington, D.C.
Oh my goodness, man.
America is on the cusp of a new golden age, but we will.
So what happened when he was
courage to seize
the president?
It. We're going to take it. We're going to make it a
in
current.
DC then.
We're going to bring this into a golden age like never seen before. Remember this, China wants to do it. Japan wants to do it. All of these countries want to do it. We have to produce massive amounts of energy if we're going to produce the new. If you look at some of the things that
but he don't want to
and some
produce
of the things
electric
that we're going
energy,
to do,
batteries, or
but
that stuff.
AI needs literally twice the electricity that's available now in our country. Can you imagine? But instead, we're spending places where they recharge electric cars. They built 8 chargers at a certain location toward the Midwest. 8 chargers for $9 billion. Think of them as a tank for filling up your gas. Think of it. They spent $9 billion on 8 chargers, 3 of which didn't work. And if you were going to do this all over our country, this crazy electric mandate, if you're going to do this all, and by the way, I'm all for electric. They have their application. But
no,
if somebody
not.
wants to buy a gas-powered car, gasoline-powered car, or a hybrid, they're going to be able to do it. And we're going to make that change on day 1.
But what's the change? To stop developing electricity, electric cars, electric vehicles?
To conclude,
so you can't
just
compete in the
a few
market?
short days ago, my journey with you nearly ended. We know.
You know,
that.
see, Donald Trump
And
is
yet,
not telling people that he's like putting one issue against the other. So he makes it seem like it's hurting the car companies. So in his idea, American cars should only be sold in America, right? And so therefore, that's his excuse for not wanting American car companies to develop and make money across the globe, selling also electric cars. He doesn't want that development. That makes no sense. If we can do one thing the best, because we're one of the more economically capable, Why can't we do both things the best around the globe? That don't make no sense.
I was a little embarrassed. I said, he said, it won't make any difference. Actually, it does. The story's not quite as good, but I've been very good. The story is not quite as good, to be honest. I've got to have a little talk with Franklin, but he was great. He's a great gentleman. His father was so incredible, Billy Graham. My father used to love taking me to see Billy Graham. My father would take me to see Billy Graham at Yankee Stadium. He had the biggest rallies you've ever seen. He was a good rally guy, too. But he'd get up, and he was a fantastic guy. My father loved Billy Graham.
Exactly. Look, you hear how he talks now? He's just talking about nothing again.
Working so hard
then he's going to go back
to his
into
note to me.
a topic
I'm
and
working hard on it, Franklin.
say some general statements
But if the
about
events
it
of last
that
Saturday
can't
make anything
be verified.
clear, it is that every single moment we have on earth is a gift from God.
Oh, now
we
we're
have
going
to
to go
make
back
the
into
most
we
of
got
every
Scott.
day for the people and for the country that we love. The attacker in Pennsylvania wanted to stop our movement, but the truth is the movement has never been about me. It has always been about you. It's your movement. It's the biggest movement in the
Right.
history
So
of
he
our
started
country.
selling
by far.
shoes for
Can't be
$299 a piece the day after.
It can't be stopped. It has always been about the hardworking, patriotic citizens of America. For too long, our nation has settled for too little. We settled for too little. We've given everything to other nations, to other people. You have been told to lower your expectations and to accept less for your families. I am here tonight with the opposite message. Your expectations are not big enough. Not big enough. It is time to start expecting and demanding the best leadership in the world, leadership that is bold, dynamic, relentless, and fearless. We can do that. We are Americans. Ambition is our heritage. Greatness is our birthright. But as long as our energies are spent fighting each other, our destiny will remain out of reach. And that's not acceptable. We must instead take that energy and use it to
acceptable.
realize our country's true potential.
And if you don't do what
and
I'm
write
telling you,
our own
remember
thrilling
January
chapter
6th.
of the American story. We can do
You
it
throw you
together.
into a
We will
camp
unite. We
also.
are going to come together, and success will bring us together. It is a story of love, sacrifice, and so many other things.
Story of love.
And remember the word
Did he say
devotion.
love?
It's unmatched devotion. Our American ancestors crossed the Delaware, survived the icy winter at Valley Forge, and
Hold on.
defeated a mighty empire to establish our cherished
Wait a
republic.
second. He said his
They
mighty
fought so hard, they
ancestors.
lost so many. They pushed thousands and thousands of miles across a dangerous frontier, taming the wilderness to build a life and a magnificent home for their family. They packed their families into covered wagons, trekked across
Hey, look,
hazardous
y'all.
trails, scaled
Trump's family was not in the country at this time.
to stake their claim on the wide open, new, and very beautiful frontier. When our way of life was threatened, American patriots marched onto the battlefield, raced into enemy strongholds, and stared down death and stared down those enemies to keep alive the flame of freedom. At Yorktown, Gettysburg,
Trump's family was not even in the country. They weren't even Americans at that time. That's so, and he says it. You know, you should just keep that in mind because he's the one who wants to decide who else is American and whose country this is. And he's willing to do it with violence. But his country, his people, his family was not here when the nation was founded. His family came just before the Civil, or no, after the Civil. Wait a second. It's definitely not this time period, 1776. It's after, just before. Let me check that out again.
and they
No, it's after the Civil War. He wasn't even around during this, even any time around the Civil War. Before or after, that's Biden's family came before the Civil War. Trump's family came after, decades after, some a generation or two after the Civil War. So, you know, he talks about this patriot stuff in our country, but he will gladly violate the rights of other people whose families came to the country or were in the country longer, much before his. You see, that really did have something to do with the founding of the country. You know, so.
And I am humbly asking for your vote. I want your vote.
Yeah, he's humbly asking. This is humbly.
Every day I will strive to.
This is humbly asking. Look, January 2nd was humbly asking for your vote.
To all of the forgotten men and women who have been neglected, abandoned, and left behind, you will be forgotten no longer. We will press forward, and together we will win, win, win.
He sounded a lot like Berlusconi, you know, but Berlusconi was a Putin puppet too.
Win. Nothing will sway us, nothing will slow us, and no one will ever stop us. No matter what dangers come our way, no matter what obstacles lie in our path, we will keep striving toward our shared and glorious destiny. And we will not fail. We will not fail. Together, we will save this country. We will restore the republic, and we will usher in the rich and wonderful tomorrows that our people so truly deserve. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before. And quite simply put,
unless I lose the election,
very quickly make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Wisconsin. God bless you. God bless you, Wisconsin, and God bless the United States of America, our great country. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
How do y'all rate that speech? I don't rate that speech as good at all. You know, to me, Trump rambles. He rambles and just goes on and on and on without saying a whole lot. He says basic, simple words over and over again, like great, you know, big, right? Powerful. And he recites those words. I mean, at one time, I think he said one word 4 times in a row or 5 times in a row just to emphasize how much, you know. Look, and then I almost forgot. He goes from talking about 1770 something to his family, and the founding fathers and all of that. And but his family wasn't in the country then. His family came after the Civil War. And on top of it, is his wife even born in America? And that's the interesting thing about it, because he puts people against each other. On one hand, he's talking about our founding fathers. But who does he mean when he says that? Does he acknowledge all the people that fought and died? Or is he just coming after later in the history of the country and claiming it, that he had something to do with it? And so therefore he has the right to any means necessary, because he's what? What's the common denominator there? Right? I think for him, the common denominator is that he's a white man. I hate to say that, but it sounds to me like it's this idea that, and there's plenty of them, like Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity's a second generation American, from what I've seen, right? From what I've researched. And, but yet he does similar thing. Like he talks about 1776, like they were his, you know, forefathers in reality. These were not Trump's forefathers, really, because his family came after the Civil War. They weren't here around the War of Independence. They weren't here during the Civil War. They came after. So they're benefactors of all of those things. But he talks about it like it's really him, like it's his family, like he had something to do with it. And I think it's shameful when people use those ideas and concepts when they really mean me, me, me. I come first. I come with I have right over you. That's essentially what he's talking about. I think we have to call people like that out and observe what they really do, their real actions, not just their words, So, yeah, but in any case, Project 2025 is what Trump plans on implementing. He's mentioned a lot of things here, and I hope the media fact checks him on everything that he says. If they don't, I'm going to, not that they're not owned by the corporations, we know that, but to me, it would seem like a corporation move if they don't fact check him, because they damn sure should be fact checking him, because that's what journalists are for and news media agencies are for. He's not a special person. He's supposed to be just like everybody else, right? So that means he needs to be fact checked on what he says. But in any case, what the hell song is this? Oh my goodness. Anyway, I don't know what the hell's going on with them. But let's go over, what did y'all think about that speech ultimately? Did you think that that was a substantive speech by Donald Trump? Or did you think could have been better? Yeah, at least Malia showed up this time. Exactly. Hannity's some shit, but that's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. And I told you they went back to 1776. That's the theme. Like the theme is like they were around, they sacrificed, and they're using these ideas. So they're kind of like, on one hand, they're immigrants themselves that weren't here during the foundings of the countries, but they're dictating law. One thing they put the most emphasis on is other immigrants. Don't you find that suspicious? Don't you find that suspicious, that kind of tactic? Because people whose families did fight in the country, there's a lot of them that were around from the War of Independence, around from the Civil War. They don't necessarily talk about things the way he does, like with a real hate for immigrants. You know what I'm saying? Like he seems to have a real hate. And I've just been noticing this. There's a lot of these characters that claim the founding fathers. They claim fighting for this country, the War of Independence, the Civil War. They claim it openly. But why can't they be called out on when they didn't have anything to do with it? I think that's wrong, especially in politics. In politics, you shouldn't. Everybody needs to be fact checked in politics, and yeah, they do that all the time. If he could fact check Obama or not fact check Obama, but do the birther thing on Obama, then why can't we just get down to everybody, being questioned, their background, their lineage, and hold them to that when they're talking these kind of things about immigrants in the U.S. or in America. America, North, South, Central America has native people of native descent, Native American descent, right? Then there's people that came like Europeans and established the colonies here in America. Early Europeans, not all Europeans, right? Just the early Spanish, right? British, some from the Scandinavia, Denmark they had some islands, right? Think countries like this, but it wasn't from every European country. And then they these people started a trade with Africa in the triangular trade, which is the slave trade industry, right? Human trafficking of Africans, right? And for centuries in the country having that history, right? Now he's claiming to have something to do with that, Donald Trump, when he didn't. You see what I'm saying? Not in the way it would sound. Like his country wasn't in the U.S. So when the War of Independence hit off after the colonies were made, the War of Independence happened. After slavery, the War of Independence happened, right? Not when slavery was finished, but after it had long been tradition. Then there was a War of Independence. His family wasn't around. Then there was a civil war to stop slavery. His family wasn't around. You see, but they talk about it. This God bless America, like they were around then. Yeah. Anyway, I know I keep saying that, but you can't. It's important to not let people like Donald Trump out American you, out USA you, out. This is my country, too. It's about values, and these people misuse that. I believe what it is to be American. They use it as a weapon. They weaponize it against other people when, in fact, they really don't even have the right. You see, because they're not necessarily proven they were down with any of that shit anyway. You see? Yeah, y'all thought it was trash rhetoric. Me too. This shit is trash. It was trash rhetoric. Trash. And people need to research this stuff, like need to look at what do they really want to do. I know, people say that to criticize the Democratic Party, they call them the no. Some people say they're the no doing party, like Republicans trash the scene, Democrats come and clean it up, but the other parts of the Democratic Party never get done. Democrats don't do it fast enough. Right? They don't implement their policies fast enough. They don't implement their parties like these Republicans do. Republicans are aggressive on it when they implement their policies. Democrats have good policies, but they're not aggressive. And they, when they have power, they don't seize the moment always. And I'm not saying they've always had power, unilaterally for long, but it just seems like the Republicans, when they really want something done, they use all means to do it. And Democrats often are following, what is standard protocol. But as you can see, Republicans aren't following protocol. They're setting precedent. That's because they're aggressive, and they're going to, even if it turns out later that they were wrong or it's unconstitutional, or that takes years to figure out. By then, they've already gotten part of their agenda accomplished, So I'm just curious if the Democratic Party is going to continue in the same way, or are they just going to go all out, no broke on this and get something done, especially about the issue of the Supreme Court, especially about the issues of just people having the rights to do what they want. But I really want to see, I think part of this new election, whoever's up for the election, a lot of it's going to come down to the economy and wages. So I'm curious how the media is going to cover the party's arguments, if they're going to fact check them on their arguments, are they going to just let people lie and say whatever they want about their policies? I'm interested to see what that's going to look like. I don't think they're going to get out of this Project 2025, but it's possible people don't read the shit for themselves and just rely on everything to be told. But folks should take them at their word, because as you know, the Heritage Foundation, they are donors. They're a PAC. They're involved with different PACs. When you read the PACs that support and the people that support Project 2025, you will see these are folks that support Trump. So they're suggesting this policy to Trump, So, yeah, bro. They say they're American, and it's people whose families been in the country long before their ass and really did fight for these wars, and we're letting them out America us in a way just by claiming it. They claim it like a centerpiece when it's not really their history always, actual history. It's just is what it is. But all right, I'm gonna flip over to this Project 2025 and then go into to see what the media reports after regarding this speech. So let's just go ahead and start here.
Would usher in the most conservative executive branch in modern American history, if enacted. It's called Project 2025. Its pages offer new administrations a blueprint for executing a right-wing agenda, from purging the government of thousands of civil servants to dismantling the Department of Education.
We do have to initiate the largest mass deportation project in the history of this country.
Former President Donald Trump has distanced himself from Project 2025, but Democrats aren't buying it.
Project 2025 would roll back our fundamental freedoms, undermine our democracy, and gut checks and balances.
Here's a closer look at the four main pillars of this radical plan and how they could transform the American government as we know it.
One of the things that's interesting about Project 2025 is the tone. You hear the term woke mentioned dozens of times, radical mentioned dozens of times. It's remarkably driven by culture war politics.
Project 2025 is designed as a government in waiting if Trump or any conservative president returns to office. It's the brainchild of the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank and lobbying group that has helped staff Republican administrations since the Reagan era.
We cover literally every public policy issue in Project 2025, from domestic policy to foreign policy.
Kevin Roberts is the president of the Heritage Foundation and one of the driving forces behind the project.
All Project 2025 is trying to do is to be a corrective to the liberal nonsense that has been so insidious inside the executive branch for the last half century.
The Heritage Foundation says Project 2025 is backed by more than 100 conservative organizations and a $22 million budget.
So I think the size, scale, and sophistication of Project 2025 is unprecedented.
The project has four main pillars: a policy plan, a personnel database, an online academy, and a playbook for the president's first 180 days in office.
We can be ready to hit the ground running on day one of the next administration.
The first pillar is a policy agenda that focuses on dismantling the so-called administrative state, or what some conservatives call the deep state.
Either the deep state destroys America or we destroy the deep state.
For Project 2025, dismantling the administrative state means purging the civil workforce of tens of thousands of federal employees and replacing them with conservative pre-vetted picks.
There is a concentration not just of power, but a concentration of radical leftist ideology in these employees. Hopefully, we will see over the next 10 to 20 years the elimination of entire cabinet departments.
The plan would dismantle the Department of Homeland Security, eliminate the Department of Education entirely, and transform the FBI into a political task force that is accountable to the president.
But the leadership of the FBI has been awful and rotten and not transparent for a long time. It is very important that Congress reestablish its purview over the FBI generally, its jurisdiction.
To give a sense of how radical this is, the FBI is an organization that has never been run by a Democrat. And so this is an organization that in its bones is a fairly conservative organization, and where now you have right-wing voices saying that it should be eliminated.
The playbook also outlines a plan to bring many federal agencies, like the Department of Justice, under more direct presidential control.
What Project 2025 articulates is the idea that the president should be the one directing the activities of the Department of Justice, even if that means that the president will not be investigated, or that the DOJ will be sent to attack the president's political enemies.
We will root out
They crazy
the
as hell.
communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
The Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, he's gaslighting because fascists would request what he's requesting in Project 2025. You know, that's the crazy part about it.
Says it wants to ensure that what remains of this whittled down federal bureaucracy is conservative, not just for the next president, but for a long time to come. Pillar 2, Personnel Database. The Heritage Foundation has already contracted the technology company Oracle to build this database, kind of like a conservative networking platform.
We've recruited Americans all over the country, and so we've had well over 11,000 people who've applied to be considered by the next president and his administration.
Trump really emphasizes loyalty, and you see those practices now being adopted by Project 2025, where you fill out a form that essentially indicates if you are loyal to President Trump or not.
Once they're fully vetted, they can move on to Pillar 3, an online presidential administration academy that would train future bureaucrats in conservative values and governing.
So we want these people who are competent, who have great credentials, to be prepared for the specific job that they will have.
Project 2025 provides detailed policy plans for dozens of government agencies, outlining ways to create de facto abortion bans, slash federal investment in renewable energy, and roll back environmental regulations. Here, you can see several sections dedicated to consolidating U.S. immigration agencies and expanding their power.
Number one, we have to close the border. We do have to initiate the largest mass deportation project in the history of this country. The 12 million people who've come in as illegal aliens must be sent back to their native countries.
But how legally sound are these policy proposals, and what would they look like in practice? That's where Pillar 4 comes in, the playbook for the first 180 days of a conservative presidency. A big part of the plan is modeled off of a Trump-era policy called Schedule F.
Schedule F is originally an executive order that Trump signed that would allow him to turn thousands of career civil servants into political appointees that he could then fire if they displeased him in any way, and then have to be more responsive to a president who in the past has shown a willingness to fire people for disloyalty rather than for competence.
The Biden administration reversed this order in 2021, but Trump has vowed to bring it back if he is reelected.
First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively.
I think Schedule F is not just possible, but it's certainly an incredible priority of a second Trump administration. The problem with Schedule F is that there is no real limitation to the number of people who could be converted.
Underpinning many of Project 2025's policy proposals is a legal principle called the unitary executive theory. It is based on a clause in the Constitution that says the executive power is vested in the president.
Project 2025 assumption is that the president has something called unitary executive authority. This gives him enormous untested powers to essentially do whatever he wants and reduces the power of Congress to check those powers.
Conservative Supreme Court justices, like Justice Samuel Alito, have signaled support for the unitary executive theory and skepticism of federal agencies.
The current Supreme Court has shown itself to be very open to claims that the president has enormous executive authority and so should be able to hire and fire people at will.
In July, the Supreme Court granted presidents immunity for any official acts taken while in office. Legal experts say this decision could set the stage for expanding presidential power.
Trump would be looking at a Supreme Court that would be quite sympathetic to his claims that he has extraordinary executive powers, far more than previous presidents, and would allow him to do things that previous Supreme Courts would have checked with other presidents.
Other legal scholars say the unitary executive theory and some of Project 2025's more radical proposals simply aren't realistic.
It will inevitably draw dozens of lawsuits if all of its policies are implemented. So you cannot eliminate an agency without Congress agreeing to that. Congress has the power to create agencies and to eliminate agencies unless the Supreme Court suddenly grants new power to the president.
Project 2025 has garnered increased attention on social media.
Project 2025.
Project 2025.
Project 2025.
As Democrats shine a spotlight on its sweeping proposals.
Project 2025 will destroy America. Look it up.
This agenda is a fascist authoritarian dictator's dream. And we know that that is exactly who Donald Trump wants to be.
Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman is part of the Stop Project 2025 task force.
So what we are trying to do is make sure that every American who is going to go to the ballot box on November 5th knows exactly what they will get if Donald Trump wins.
More recently, Trump made moves to distance himself from Project 2025. In a Truth Social post, he said he knew nothing about it, calling some of the proposals ridiculous and abysmal. Goldman says these statements are part of a larger political strategy.
So many of his former top officials are at the head of Project 2025. It is a political calculation that he's making because he recognizes that the American people do not support this extremist agenda.
President Trump is trying to win a presidential campaign, and we understand that he has to make political considerations. Given the millions of dollars that the left has spent attacking Project 2025 because they have nothing else to run on, I wasn't surprised to see President Trump's statement, nor are there any hard feelings.
Back in 2022, Trump spoke to the Heritage Foundation and was direct about its role in crafting future policy.
This is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America. And that's coming. That's coming.
Trump's own policy platform closely resembles many of Project 2025's proposals, too, from cracking down on immigration to blocking gender-affirming healthcare and stopping a woke and weaponized government.
Given the persuasiveness of these ideas, the overlap that exists between Trump's stated priorities and the priorities of the project, that will all sort itself out. It really is the conservative playbook, not just for the next year or two, but hopefully for the next generation.
Criminals hide evidence, not honest people. So, over the next 10 days, we get to see the machines that are crooked, the ballots that are fraudulent, and if we're wrong, we will be made fools of. But if we're right, a lot of them will go to jail. So, let's have trial by combat.
All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done and what they're doing. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore. And that's what this is all about. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country. Our country has been under siege for a long time.
We are gathered at a time when democracy is in crisis. Recent polling shows that 39% of Americans believe the election that just occurred, quote, was rigged. You may not agree with that assessment, but it is nonetheless a reality for nearly half the country.
Madam Speaker, I have constituents outside this building right now. I promised my voters to be their voice. In this branch of government, which I now serve, it is my separate but equal obligation to weigh in on this election and object. Are we not a government of, by, and for the people? They know that this election is not right, and as their representative, I am sent here to represent them. I will not allow the people to be ignored. Madam Speaker, it is my duty under the U.S. Constitution to object to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Arizona. The members who stand here today and accept the results of this concentrated, coordinated, partisan effort by Democrats, where every fraudulent vote cancels out the vote of an honest America, has sided with the extremist left. The United States Congress needs to make an informed decision, and that starts with this objection.
If you work in IT, you need a Terra.
Yeah.
With remote monitoring and management.
Well, I guess everybody knows what they're going to get from the Republican Party this time around. It is basically going to be more of the same. There's no, it's going to be a repeat. The last election, it's been agreed upon, even by the Supreme Court, that Joe Biden won the election. So there's no election interference, as they said. The courts have already dealt with that matter. But yet, they're telling you that they're willing to do that again if they don't win the election. So they're essentially doubling down on it, that the past election was fraudulent, and they're going to use the same means or more if they don't win the next election. They're sure that the next election is fraudulent if the winner is not deemed to be Donald Trump. Essentially, that's what people are up against. So it's not just a thing about, do you like his policies? It's also a thing about, do you like his means of obtaining the presidency? Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that he should be offered another opportunity to run when he's already shown the capacity to incite riots? That's what he essentially did. He incited a riot, and it's called Jan 6. And people saw what that looked like. Then there's the issue of the Democratic Party. Who will represent the Democratic Party? Of course, there hasn't been an official nomination. It's been presumed that it would be Joe Biden. He's been running, but it's possible that won't be the case. And that's essentially what's coming out of different news agencies. And everyone knows there's been top Democrats that have said they want Biden to step down. And I guess we're going to find out more about that in the upcoming weeks. Let me know how you feel about that. I don't think it's necessary. I think they jumped the gun. They jumped the gun publicly with that discussion. And I don't think the Democrats did themselves. Well, I don't know if you can have it both ways, but I just didn't like to see that myself, because I didn't think there was an issue with Biden governing anyway. Or, and my view is, if he's governing, then he should be allowed to run, unless he decides, or someone else decides, that he can't govern right now. I've never heard of people making predictions about somebody's health in the future when they haven't been diagnosed with any illness that would stop them. You see what I mean? So I think there's some problems there. But I'm not opposed to anyone else. I mean, because look at what the choice is. Your choice is to vote blue or to get some sort of agenda like Project 2025 happening, even if it's not Trump, because they're saying this is going to be the next conservative agenda. And so for me, it's scary enough seeing when people don't follow the rules. You should take note the fact that they have transferred their connection to the country when they're delivering their message. Like, they have this 1776 message War of Independence, Civil War message, but a lot of the people that are talking about his family was not even around then, versus people that are listening to it like myself. My family was around then, and I'm listening to it like, damn, these people feel like they own America more than me. That's so wild, to listen to that. I mean, the way the Republicans talk, they talk like they're not talking to other Americans. That's what they talk like. They act like they believe Democrats are not Americans somehow. And like our families don't go back to 1776, Our families don't go back to the Civil War. Donald Trump talks like that when his family doesn't go back. You see? Sean Hannity, he's down with the program with Trump. He's down with Project 2025. His family wasn't down with the War of Independence. His family wasn't down with the Civil War. He's a second generation American. I mean, this is the problem. Like, where's the media and the fact checking? Because they let these people go on TV and commit fraud. It's fraud to talk like you're something that you're not. That's fraud. And I think there's a lot of that going on in MAGA. A lot of look, how can you look at the man's Vance, his wife. Oh no, it's not his wife. Hold on. It was another politician. I think he was elected from Arizona too. Maybe not Arizona, but somewhere in the Midwest. And he's of Indian background, I believe. He's a first. He came to the country. His family came to the country in 1970, and he's talking so bad about immigrants, so bad. He hates illegal immigrants more than anyone else in his country. His family just got here in 1970. You would think, you would think his family been around and fought hard before they have a strong dislike or a strong sentiment against, immigrants, because what comes with that, tighten up immigration too. That means the rules that you were allowed to get here under, you should tighten those up so somebody else don't have the same rules later. You know what I mean? So, it's amazing. It's amazing to see that. It's like living in a Twilight Zone, really, watching this kind of stuff. Trump's wife, Melania, she's got the most right-wing, tighten up immigration president on earth. And she ain't even from the U.S. herself. Don't you think the messaging should change out of Trump's mouth? Don't you think the messaging is wrong, like a little hypocritical? So I'm just saying, don't let the man fool you. Don't let the man fool you. He wants more rights than he wants you to have. He wants more than you. Look at this. The man started selling shoes the day after he got shot, or after he got shot at, excuse me, because I don't even know if he got shot. The people are saying it was glass from the teleprompter. But yes, he started selling shoes the day after he had shoes. He was making money before he even on his own on the shooting. He was making money on the shooting before he even contacted the widow of the fireman that got murdered. So just keep that in mind. Keep in mind, this is the man we're talking about, Donald Trump. He said himself he's been friends with Jeffrey. He said this some time ago. He had been friends with Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years. He's a great guy. And he even acknowledged that the rumor is Jeffrey likes them young. He has been on Jeffrey Epstein's plane probably more than anybody, according to the manifest. And on top of that, you don't even know how many times Donald Trump took his own plane, private plane, to Epstein Island. Where are the manifests for the plane? Those planes, all right? There's a woman who claims that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump sexually assaulted her in the most horrific way, like tied her up. Yes, that's the claim. When is the media going to ask him about that? What's up with that? Like, I don't know. I mean, don't you think that's kind of strange that they would talk about it before, but they don't talk about it now? Jeffrey Epstein's dead. Shouldn't they press him more on Jeffrey Epstein? If not that allegation, then just him being on the planes more? Like, what's up with that? I don't know. I don't understand that. So for me, it's a loss. But in any case, there's always more coming. I'll check back with y'all later on today and see what's good after the news cycle. Appreciate y'all. Bless.